Assistant Health and Human Services Secretary Rachel Levine is getting fierce backlash for comments made this past May. The recently resurfaced video shows Levine, a transgender woman, demanding big tech companies censor misinformation about gender-affirming procedures for children. Watch.
There is substantial misinformation about gender-affirming care for transgender and gender-diverse individuals. The positive value of gender-affirming care for youth and adults is not in scientific or medical dispute. We need to use our clinicians' voice to collectively advocate for our tech companies to create a healthier, cleaner information environment.
Well, those comments now getting blasted on Twitter. One person tweeting, "When fascism comes to America, it will be under the guises of health and safety." Another saying, "You're not allowed to criticize Rachel Levine or other social media platforms. You will be banned." And pro tip, what the government labels misinformation, you can generally just call information. Dr. Siegel, in that video, Secretary Levine says the positive value of gender-affirming care in youth and adults is not in scientific or medical dispute. How can you say that when science and medicine are constantly evolving, constantly changing, constantly being debated and improved?
Yeah, I also want to hear what Dr. Nishawat has to say about this, but I just did a report, 2 reports actually, for our investigative unit, and we looked into this exact issue. Gender dysphoria is real, but the question is what you do about it and when. And that is absolutely in dispute, because if you take a 12-year-old or a 13-year-old and you're doing puberty blockers, we don't know the long-term effects of that. We do know that it affects the bones. There's an issue with fertility. And then we covered the question of people who decide later on they want to detransition. If you do a mastectomy, that's absolutely in dispute. Who's doing that? And what age is it being done? And how certain is the person that's receiving that care that they want that? And then if they decide later they don't, it's not easy. Very, very difficult. So all of that is, and the idea of here we go again with misinformation.
Right.
We just dealt with that with Twitter already.
To say something's not in dispute, scientifically or medically, Dr. Janae, I want to get your take on that as well.
I completely agree with Dr. Siegel. I mean, she is not the god of science. Science, you know, medicine, they call it a practice because it's constantly evolving. We need to change our guidelines and our protocols as we progress, as we learn more information. But gender dysphoria, this is a very serious and sensitive issue, a very serious topic, because it has a very high suicide rate, very high suicidal ideation rate. Up to 42% of those who struggle with their identity think about suicide because of the stress that it has on them and even their families. So I don't think it's right for Rachel Levine to impose, it seems, her personal views on all of us. Instead, you know, we know that some people will benefit from, you know, transitioning and gender-affirming care, but we want to do it the right way. And that starts off with taking a history and a physical, maybe doing blood work, getting counseling and therapy, not rushing to hormones and irreversible surgeries that might have long-term consequences that are irreversible.
Mental health care, really important.
Mental health care, absolutely. And Cheryl, when she said we need our tech companies to create a healthier, cleaner information environment, whose information? I mean, you know, whose information?
She wants her information. The Biden, I mean, we just got Twitter Files 10, right, over the weekend. And the Biden administration was shown to be, they wanted their narrative on Twitter. And I'm sure that they're reaching out to Facebook and they have to Instagram as well. So it's their message. But remember, social media, we've already learned that Instagram has been detrimental to the mental health of teenage girls. The Wall Street Journal exposed Instagram for that. So it's not just Twitter, it's all over. And to say that they need to have the message their way, no, you don't. And really quick, let me say something, okay? When I was 12 years old, for a whole year, I wore black. Okay, and I listened to like heavy metal music, and my hair was crazy, and I looked ridiculous, and I wore these stupid shoes, and I grew out of it. Okay, I was 12. What happens to a 12-year-old who gets onto Twitter or to Instagram and says, "Oh, I can do all these surgeries and be a different person"? Great. And then a year later,
I'm just trying to picture Cheryl with the black hair and the clothes, and I'm going there. Katrina, you have a 5-year-old.
I do.
And they're very impressionable. And it's Twitter, it's TikTok, it's everywhere. I understand you had a recent experience with this whole kind of gender questioning.
I did on Christmas Day, and what's really, I have a very special heart for children, obviously as a mother, but I have a difficult time digesting the fact that the media is now telling our children what to think, when to think it. Yeah. At 5 years old, he was watching a cartoon, and he paused the cartoon and said to me, Mom, you know, he asked me a question about boys and girls and who could have babies and just that whole process, and is someone born a girl, and I was literally, I was speechless, sitting there thinking to myself, at 5 years old, I wasn't asking these questions, and I was outside playing hide and go seek. I was playing sports. I was just, so the fact that the media is now controlling when we have these discussions with kids, and they're deep questions.
Oh yeah.
You know, and they're serious questions, and I shouldn't be having those with a 5-year-old.
Well, the 5-year-old shouldn't be getting this from a cartoon.
Right.
I mean, I just, that's where these messages are coming from is a little concerning.
Yeah, and absolutely. I think it's important to note that 2/3 of those who struggle with gender identity, after puberty, they're happy with the way God made them.
Exactly.
50%?
More than 2/3.
Oh, more than 2/3.
2/3, about approximately 2/3.
You know, it's just, Dr. Siegel, you mentioned it. When should these things be approached with the individuals who are experiencing gender dysphoria? There's got to be an age that is too young, right?
Well, for sure, puberty is too young to be talking about transition, and that's where all the debating is going on. And the mental health issues are really important because 70% or more of those that have gender dysphoria have major mental health issues going on simultaneously. We can't sweep that under the rug. We have to, what's the downside of counseling? What's the downside of seeing a therapist and working through what you're feeling?
There's a tremendous upside to that. I will vouch for that.
Hey everyone, I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kaylee McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.